TFD Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Sullivan, and this is the show where we break down popular science into easily digestible and actionable information to give you the blueprint to be a high performer in your life. Today, I'm joined by my main man, Jack Doherty, TFD's Senior Performance Dietitian, and we are talking about the 6 biggest and most common mistakes we see athletes make when it comes to their nutrition and diet. These are things we have consistently seen over the years, helping thousands of our clients reach their performance and lifestyle goals, and things that you will rectify if you are serious about achieving yours. Let's get to it. All right, we are back for another episode of the TFD Performance Podcast. Joining me again, my right-hand man, we've got Mr. Jack Doherty, aka the Combat Dietitian, Senior Performance Dietitian at TFD. I'm running out of things to say, so Jack, welcome back on.
Thank you. Good to be back again.
Good to be back. Good to be back as if we haven't been talking every single day for the last 5
Yeah,
years.
exactly.
What we're going to talk about today, this is going to be really cool. So we want to keep it pretty quick and to the point, because this is something that's going to be pretty valuable to a lot of athletes, especially younger athletes. We spend a lot of time talking about younger athletes since we're doing a lot of work in the development in the amateur space at the moment. We want to do, it's going to be a total of 6 mistakes that athletes make with their nutrition. Jack's picked his top 3 that he sees. I've picked my top 3 that I see. I think this is an important discussion to have, because I think when it comes to nutrition, I always say this to people: training is your absolute king. Training is what is going to get you to the level you want to go to with your athletic background, with your development as an athlete. What your nutrition and everything else, your recovery, strength conditioning, that's kind of like the queen on the chessboard. That's what's going to support those endeavors, those athletic endeavors, especially when it comes to nutrition. It's going to create an environment that allows you to respond to the stimulus of training as adequately as possible. And I think that a lot of athletes come to that conclusion or realize that far too late in their journey. And I think so many athletes would be so much better off if they just got this right from the get-go. And that's why I want to go over these 3 mistakes each. So it'll be 6 in total. So if you're listening to this and you go, oh crap, I am making these mistakes, rectify it, get going, and get on that journey to get to be the best athlete you could be. All right, Jack, let's kick it off. Number 1, what's your first?
The one I've seen the most of, coming from a Muay Thai background, training in Melbourne, training in Australia, and training in Thailand, is the reduction or complete removal of carbohydrates from the diet in a dieting phase per se. Something that, like, you know, when you're in Thailand, I was on training in Thailand years ago, the Thai trainers, if you start putting on a bit of weight, call you Buddha belly, and then they will say you stop eating carbohydrates. That's also linked with a heavy training schedule. So that's obviously something that I see a lot of Muay Thai, but obviously now, you know, working with the spectrum of athletes, it's something that is very frequent. A lot of guys come to me, females and males, I should say, and they've completely removed carbohydrates, you know, for their whole diet in this phase to try to get weight down as much as possible. Obviously,
It's a funny one, because I find it's a very Western ideology, like this carb phobia. It's like we've created this in the Western world. And that's not saying it doesn't exist in parts of Asia, but I always talk to Dr. Reed Real, like we talk quite a lot, who's the head of performance nutrition at the UFCPI Shanghai. And he says he has the complete opposite problem with those, because carbs are such a huge part of their culture in the Asian culture, is that it's almost like we've got to control the carbs and get these guys eating a bit more protein and getting different sources of fat. So it's a real Western thing that these guys, we just seem to think, okay, carbs equal bad. And it's a runoff. It's a bad runoff from the low carb days, the Atkins days, the Atkins diet, all of these things, you know, keto diet. Oh, if you eat carbs, it makes you fat. It's been proven time and time again. That's not true. And when you're doing a sport, starts with mixed martial arts or any sport that requires any high intensity, carbs are literally your best friend. They're literally the fuel that you need to fuel that activity.
Yeah, but also a lot of people, they term it like keto, like I'm doing keto. And they're not actually doing a version of keto, because instead of, like, you know, playing with the macronutrients and, say, getting their fats higher to get that energy they need, they're just basically having a normal diet, just ripping the carbs from it and just increasing like vegetables or salad. So you're just basically placing yourself in a very deep deficit. You know, obviously the number one thing I hear is that the training capacity is completely reduced. Like, you know, obviously, again, going back to Muay Thai, a lot of especially in Thailand, that they're training twice a day. It's not periodized. It's very heavy training, and they've got no fuel. As you said, it's a number one fuel source, carbohydrates. So not having that, their training performance is completely diminished when they're on this extreme low carb diet. So then again, you're seeing that, their output is reduced as well. So it's this kind of diminishing effect. You're basically lowering your carbohydrates and your training performance is going down, your output's going down. So yeah, you may be losing weight in the first few weeks. Again, we've spoken about this 1,000 times. That's mainly through water changes within the body. But, overall, you're really putting yourself in a bad position if you want to be an optimal athlete and obviously have that long sustained weight loss.
All right. So biggest mistake that you see, one of the biggest mistakes, number one, is carbs. I'm going to throw in my one. The number one that I've got here is inadequate assessment. And when I say that is similarly, when you have this conversation with people and they go, oh, hey, Geordie, hey, Jack, I want to lose weight. Or, hey, I started this diet. I did keto. I did whatever. And, I wasn't losing weight. Or, you know what, I didn't really feel good. And I go, okay, like, what was your baseline and what were you like getting these numbers off? And what were you basing all of this dietary information, diet advice, and what you were eating, putting in, but what were you basing that on? And they always go, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And you go, well, how do you expect to build a house without a foundation? And that's what assessment is. And that's why we always talk about so important. With all of our guys, we send them off and go get a DEXA scan. It's not because like we think that DEXA is the most accurate thing. We all appreciate the inaccuracies that come, but we need some numbers. We need something to work with. That's why we send them off to go get a metabolic rate assessment. So we have something to work with. One, do they have a normal metabolism? Is that metabolism or the amount of calories they're burning at rest? Is that normally what we expect with just our prediction equations? Is it higher? Is it lower? Why not? We need something to work with. That's why I think getting an adequate assessment is really, really, really important in this. And too many people make the mistake of going, hey, Geordie, I want to lose weight. You go, cool, but from what? Like, how many calories do you need to lose weight? How much body fat do you physically have on your body to lose? How much muscle mass do you have? And that all informs your dietary approach, and informs your training, it informs how you go about structuring the next 4, 8, 12, plus weeks to reaching those goals. So one of the biggest mistakes I see athletes make is they don't have a plan because they don't have inadequate assessment. And you need that assessment to build the foundation of whatever you want to do with your training and your nutrition.
I think, yeah, that's exactly right. I think that leads into my number two, which is someone entering a deep deficit initially to obtain that weight loss. So again, like what you're saying with inadequate, foundations of understanding what your body needs or the energy the body needs, that people go, okay, well, I need a diet, I've got to fight, or I want to lose X amount of weight in X amount of weeks. And they go, place themselves in the deepest deficit. I've seen people who've gone extreme to, like, before working with us, they were on 800 calories, training twice a day for weeks on end. And I'm just seeing that, and just them not understanding that simply that to obtain or to, facilitate fat loss, you don't need to be in a severe deficit. You need to be in a deficit, as we know, but it doesn't need to be that deep. And again, like what you're saying, because they don't have the understanding or the foundation knowledge about, what their requirements are, they place themselves in these dangerous, in some cases it can cause a bit of metabolic damage, deficits, which, again, is detrimental to your body, but also your training performance, your progression throughout the year. So yeah, that's my second biggest one. Just like time and time again, when our new clients send the information in, I'm amazed at how deep their deficit is before working with us.
Yeah, I think it also comes back to why I like getting these assessments done at the start, because it's an education point with them. Like, it's an education point if I go, hey, Jack, you just got your RMR and it comes back and you're blowing at 1,900 calories at rest. And then you tell me that you've been eating 1,600 calories, and I can literally show you and be like, look, you were literally already, before you've gotten out of bed, before you've gone to the bathroom, before you made a coffee, before you even thought about going to training, you're already going to burn 1,900 calories a day, and you're only putting in 1,600. No wonder you feel like crap, and no wonder you're not performing at your best. No wonder you're not recovering as best as you can, because you're just not putting in enough fuel. And that's like a real thing, right? It's, a lot of athletes have this less is more attitude when it comes to their nutrition. Like, oh, I got to go in a deficit, but a bigger deficit is the better one. It's not the better one. The bigger deficit is absolutely not the better one. The best deficit for you is the most appropriate one for you to achieve your goals. I'm going to go into my second biggest mistake that I see with athletes that they make with their nutrition, and that's inconsistency. And it kind of blows me away. And I think people have this mindset with nutrition that, okay, if I do this for maybe like 2, 3, 4 weeks, that, okay, it'll work. It's absolutely not like that. If you want to understand how nutrition and fuel works with your individual body, you have to give it a good amount of time. It's like going to the gym and expecting to bench press 150 kilos if you've never gone to the gym and done a bench press. Like, not only do you have to go into the gym and learn the movements and the mechanics of the bench press, you've probably got to go and work all those accessory muscles around it. You've got to really build up your body to be able to get to that point. It's the same with your diet, and you need to be consistent with it over time. That's how you learn what works and what doesn't work. It's not like when Jack and I sit down and we write this diet, yeah, we can have all the numbers right. We can have everything perfectly in place. But the human body, human metabolism is so complex. There's no way that we can cover everything that we know. And what we're pretty much fallen back on is the experience we have with thousands of other athletes. And then we pick a bunch that we think are kind of like you by your measurements. And that's what we're putting together. But none of them are you. So we need to spend a good deal of time figuring out how you're responding to that dietary protocol and what works best for your body. And the fact of the matter is that just takes time. So if you're not going to consistently stick to it, you're just never going to be able to find these patterns, find these rhythms, find what works for you.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect transition into my third topic, which is yo-yo dieting. So I think that's something that we've probably seen probably the most of in our career. It's like, during a fight camp or competition prep, that, strict dieting, eating very well, and then competition ending, and then basically blowing out. So going from a dieting phase to just this big blowout phase and going back and forth throughout the year. And as you said, that comes down to, again, consistency. It's just that whole year round, 12 months, looking at nutrition as more of like a 12-month kind of plan rather than just stop and start, because you see how detrimental that can be. Like, well, I've seen some people in the past, be really good on the diet, finish, and then completely blow out. And then you have to spend weeks upon weeks to try to get that body composition in place. And, not only is it like a psychological thing of just seeing your weight go up and down, the stress that comes with that, obviously the metabolic effects of you going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, you're hurting yourself in a lot of ways, but also you're not understanding what works for you. You're not optimizing your training performance year round. You're not optimizing yourself as an athlete or just as a person year round. And that's what is the third biggest thing that I find is being detrimental to people in terms of nutrition.
Yeah, this is a combo we have a lot with the combat athletes, or any of the weight category guys, and especially when they're used to doing big cuts. And you always hear them talk about, as they get older, it gets harder. And I don't necessarily think that's true. What I believe that is happening when you're doing that is every time you're doing these big yo-yos, when you start from up here and you cut really hard for a short period of time, and then you balloon back up, and then you cut down, like doing this yo-yo dieting throughout the year. Every time you're doing that, like Jack said, you're taking a little jab at your metabolism, whether that's your fat oxidation rate, your insulin sensitivity, your ability to handle the amount of calories that you have because your resting metabolic rate is slightly decreasing. That is what is catching up with you, because you're doing this crazy big up and then crazy big down. And everyone always says, oh, well, what's the solution to that? And I always go, well, you got two options here. You either give yourself more time so that curve or that line coming down isn't so sharp and dramatic and it's a bit more flattened out, or you just don't cut as much weight. You just don't lose as much weight. And the only way to do that is to be able to maintain your weight and have good nutrition all year round.
Yeah, and I think that's why we spend so much time. Obviously, we provide plans, we help facilitate fat loss, but I think a big component of what we do is provide education, like helping people understand the detrimental effects of certain behavior. Not expecting people to know this, of course, because obviously we've done this for so long, we understand these processes, but telling our athletes, telling our clients that, educating about all these factors to kind of make them healthier in general and understand their nutrition on an individual level, not just rely solely on us to tell them this is what you should eat. Just be like, okay, you can be flexible, and these are the kind of things you need to implement year round so you can be healthy, you can optimize yourself, your training performance, and optimize your health in general as well.
Yeah, agreed. I think let's finish this off with the last one that I've written down here, and that is one of the biggest mistakes that I see athletes make with their nutrition is having what I call the shortcut mentality. And what I have written down next to this is nothing worth doing ever comes easy. And that applies to everything in life, whether that's your training, whether that's a business. And it's especially true when it comes to your diet and your nutrition. And like we're talking about, I think we're just surrounded in this world where we're just infested with all this marketing, and we kind of get lost in what is real and what is not real. And marketing companies just throw all these false promises, and they're clever, right? Like they're working on these like highly emotive states with us. And, oh, you know what? I can lose 10 kilos in 8 weeks if I just do this type of diet. Maybe, but you're not going to be able to keep them. You're not going to keep that off. There's absolutely no way you're keeping that off. I find that athletes tend to get sucked into these because they're so hyper competitive and they're always looking for the edge. So rather than sitting back, putting their critical thinking hat on and going, okay, well, you know what? I spent years and years and years and years training for my sport to get my skills up to this level. And I spent years and years and years and years getting my mindset to a place where I can support the physical output. Why would my nutrition and diet be any different to that? Why would I expect that, okay, this like flashy new diet or supplement or whatever promised me more peak explosiveness, or I can lose all this weight next amount of time? Why would it be any different? It's just not the case. And I think athletes need to avoid that at all costs. This shortcut mindset of, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do like a keto and that's going to be able to just get me on weight and that's that. It's like, no, that's not how you should be thinking. Your mindset should be a long-term performance mindset. How am I eating every single day? And I'm putting my body in the best environment to respond to the stimulus of my training. And then how am I eating to optimize my recovery after that? How am I doing that every single day for X amount of years, not days, not weeks, not months, years, so I can get to my ultimate goal? That's how you should be thinking. You shouldn't be thinking, I want to go on these crash diets and tone up and get these abs, or I want to do this little thing so I can get more muscular. No, that's shortcut mentality. That just does not work. Not one single elite level athlete that we have thinks like that. Time, it's just hard work, consistency over time, doing the right things that work for your body. I think that is one thing that athletes seem to really, really make a big mistake of, is thinking that there's a shortcut to all of this. There's not.
That's why we spent we spent years, the last few years, like really refine the process of when we create nutrition plans to be like enjoyable, to be somewhat flexible, so you can implement this year round. Because I know we bang on about nutrition's a 12-month, it's a year round thing that you should do. But, we understand that, sometimes a dieting phase can be hard. So when we creating these nutrition plans these days, we're trying to make them, enjoyable. So you can have it, you can have all the foods, you can enjoy yourself, you can kind of not feel like you're on a diet all the time, but kind of implement this, 12 months of the year, you can feel good, you can keep adapting, you can keep optimizing yourself in every aspect.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? Is like, I think a lot of people look at our athletes and say they see them enjoying pizza or burgers or whatever, and they go, oh, there must be like some trick to this. It's like, there's absolutely no trick. All that athlete has done is just everything that we've spoken about. They got the right assessments. They've been consistent for a long period of time on the plan, and we've figured out what works for their body. And like, when it comes to your diet, it's not just the food that you eat. You need to consider everything else. You need to consider their mental state, their relationship with food, the psychosocial aspect of food, how much can they physically afford? So many different things. All of that takes time. And once you figure all of that out, you go, you know what, Jack, you can be really, really good. Like Monday to Friday, we're really, really performance focused here. But you know what? Like, you've got the calories. You're training so hard and burning this much. We don't want you in a deficit right now. We're not in any specific, say, competition prep where we need to lose weight. You can get away with the calories. And you know what? These are probably your best options. And as long as you're following these principles, getting good protein, good whole grain carbs, and, nothing overly processed all of the time, you can by all means go out to the pub and get like a Parmigiana and chips, or you can go get like a burger and fries or whatever it is. You can fit all of that in as long as you've been consistent and you understand how all of these principles fit in with your body and your own goals.
Yeah, exactly. I think the consistency is key. Like, I've clients who are long-term clients, and even one of my clients shared over the weekend, she was, she's so consistent and trained so hard that I literally had to tell her over the weekend, I'm like, you need 3 off the plan, kind of, what people may term cheat meals, but that kind of thing, because she's so consistent, because she trains so hard and her body composition is in a perfect shape. We have to do those things. But because she's my ongoing client, we've worked through so many months of understanding what her body needs, understanding how to manipulate certain things so she can be flexible at times, especially in the off season, because we work with people in camp, out of camp, and maybe sometimes year round. So when we have that consistency, you see the flexibility that we can instill in their lives, and they can enjoy food and they can be very relaxed about it. And I find that's one of the best things. Consistency leads to, better mental health around food and just a happier overall individual, really.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point too, like the mental health aspect of food, because like really, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to dilute it and pretend like this is the only reason that you can have, mental issues around food or bad relationships with food. But a lot of it does come from this misunderstanding of what you have to do and how to fuel your body. And once you really start lining up those ducks, it's really cool to see it with athletes. Like it's cool to see an athlete that is optimally fueled, that is fueling their training and then recovering and then doing that consistently and then understanding where they can fit in their favorite foods and knowing that they can go out to a restaurant or to a bar with their friends and family and enjoy themselves and not feel like they've cheated themselves or fallen off the wagon and then just get back to Monday and just do it all again. It's really cool seeing an athlete do that. That's what I think is absolute peak performance when it comes to diet and nutrition.
Yeah, and just seeing the athletes, out of camp, feeling good, training really hard. And then when they enter camp, instead of it being like a fat loss camp and really killing themselves, they're enjoying training, they're pushing themselves, they're still adapting and becoming a better athlete within that fight camp phase. That's one of my favorite things. When the weight's on point, when everything's going well and they're consistent, people just messaging me and saying, oh, training's going really good, sparring was fantastic, like I'm feeling really good, I'm feeling recovered, rather than that traditional, fight camp where people are like, oh, I feel terrible, I'm tired all the time, I'm achy, just that looking at both sides of things. And obviously you want your athlete to be feeling good year round, and that is possible with consistency.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap that up then. That's some pretty good points. 6 mistakes that both Jack and I see all the time that athletes make with their nutrition. Just to recap them, Jack's 3 points. Number 1, we've got cutting out carbohydrates unnecessarily. 2, going into too severe or too deep of a deficit when it's not needed. And 3, yo-yo dieting throughout the year and yo-yoing your weight. My 3 mistakes are not having adequate assessment or having inadequate assessments for your goals, inconsistency with your diet, and 3, having a shortcut mentality and not planning to stick it out for the long run. I think that covers it. That's pretty good, Jack. Anything else you want to add on the end there?
No, I think we covered all the main ones.
All right. If there's anything else you guys want to hear us talk about, any myths that you want busted, any topics you want covered on the podcast, be sure to shoot us a message on our socials. But until then, we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome to the TFD Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Sullivan, and this is the show where we break down popular science into easily digestible and actionable information to give you the blueprint to be a high performer in your life. Today, I'm joined by my main man, Jack Doherty, TFD Senior Performance Dietitian, and we are talking about the 6 biggest and most common mistakes we see athletes make when it comes to their nutrition. Today, I'm joined by my main man, Jack Doherty, TFD Senior Performance Dietitian, and we are talking about the 6 biggest and most common mistakes we see athletes make when it comes to their nutrition and diet. These are things we have consistently seen over the years helping thousands of our clients reach their performance and lifestyle goals, and things that you will rectify if you're serious about